Hey BookTube, it's Sarah and welcome back to my channel, The Book Bag. Today I'm going to show you my June bullet journal setup. I based this setup off of my favorite board game, Viticulture, which is a worker placement game where you run a vineyard and try and make wine to get the most points. It's super fun and the artwork is super gorgeous. So before we get into the setup, here are the tarot cards that I chose for this month. The first one is the Emperor, which is a card of dominion, an organizer, a leader, and the positive results of hard work. I thought this was great for the Viticulture game because the whole point of the game is to organize your little workers and to bear witness to the fruits of your labor. The second card I have is the Ace of Coins, which is a card of prosperity, abundance, nourishment, the combination of wealth and pleasure and hedonism. And the cards that I have actually have grapes on them, so I thought that was also ideal for a wine and vineyard centered board game spread. So to start off, I have this border that's inspired by the border that's around the edges of the Viticulture instruction card. It's just got some fun little curlicues and then wine glasses in opposing corners and little grapes in the other two corners. Next, in the center of my cover page, I have these little lockets that were traced from the Mama and Papa cards from Viticulture, which are basically supposed to be the owners of the vineyard, and they determine what resources you start the game with. Normally, the lockets in Viticulture have the mamas and papas drawn in them, but I can't draw people at all, so I just put my boyfriend's initial and my initial. And I'm actually super happy with how those letters turned out. I think I ended up printing out a super fancy font and then just tracing over that because there's no way I could draw letters that fancy freehand. The next part of the cover page I have here is the little windmill that is inspired by the windmill that's on the little player's card in the game. Then I trace these little buildings from the box of Viticulture. I think they're supposed to be maybe the cottage and then also the main vineyard building that has the cellars and everything for your wine. The last few things on my cover page are a wine barrel, and then in the left corner I have another wine barrel, plus a bottle of wine and a glass of wine and some grapes. The washi tape I chose to use for my border this month is this nice burgundy color. It kind of reminded me of like a red wine color, so I thought it would fit very nicely with the theme this month. As always, I have my sleep tracker on the page opposite my cover page, and it just lays out the hours from 8 p.m. till 12 noon the next day for each day of the month, as well as a space to write how many hours I slept, and then 5 spots for my energy level, even though it only ever gets to 3. But I can dream, right? For my first weekly spread, I did these little things of, I don't know if they're wheat, but it's inspired by the symbol, the design of the coins in Viticulture, and it's kind of this little like wreath of what looks like wheat, but that doesn't really make a ton of sense. I don't know if it's just supposed to like look like victory, maybe, kind of like the olive branches, the crowns from the Olympics. I don't know, but it took me a really long time. They turned out pretty well, but yeah, that was a lot of tiny little like leaf things that I had to draw. For my next weekly spread, I traced out the little worker people that you put on the board to take actions. These were a lot easier than the previous spread, and thank God for that. For my third weekly spread, I traced out these little grapes that show whose turn it is. They're just like a little set of green grapes, and then whoever has them gets to put their people down first. For my last weekly spread, I just did little wine bottles. These were super lopsided, and I think this ended up being my least favorite weekly spread that I did, but at least they were on theme. I went back and wrote down the days of the week over top of my little dates, because I had forgotten to do that, and I also forget to do it for every single other page, but I went back eventually and did them. And then I just drew these little grapevines to divide up the spaces. This is actually my boyfriend's idea because I was like, it looked kind of blank and I wasn't sure how to split it up. I didn't want to do like just black lines because I thought then it'd be pretty boring, but I went and drew these little like swirly lines with some leaves and a few grapes on each of them. And it's actually super cute and a really fun way to just split up the page. After I finished with my weekly spreads, I went back to color the main cover page because, well, it looked very nice. It was kind of boring. It was just black and white. So I thought I would add some color in, make it a little bit more exciting to look at. So here's my final flip through of my June setup. As I mentioned before, I 100% forgot to write the days of the week on my second, third, and fourth weekly spreads, but I did go back eventually and fix that. I hope you guys enjoyed my viticulture themed bullet journal spread. Let me know if any of you have ever played this game or heard of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.